When I was a little boy, along with this little boy right there, we lived right down the street. He lived on, he lived on Patterson. I lived on 22nd, which is, of course, 2 blocks. I lived 322, which was across the street from the old Red Cross. And so this is the way I remember it. Now, Carlton's 9 months older than I, so his memory is leaving him quicker than I. But I remember the first day I came up here to get ice cream cone, I was excited because I had enough money first to get some. And see, when I was Taylor's age, we could come up this far without our parents. We could just run around the street with it. And so I came up here and wanted to get ice cream cone. I knew I wasn't supposed to come in. So I stood outside the window, and I just stood, and nobody came to say hi to me. I went back home. Next day I came back, and I stood, and somebody came outside and asked me what I was doing, what I wanted. And I said, I want to get ice cream cone. They told me that they couldn't serve me. So I went back home, upset, and went back home, and it bothered me. He wasn't with me that time. He wasn't with me, and he came with me later. And I went back home and I was very bothered. And I told my dad. And my dad did not allow discrimination or segregation to, if you know my dad like me and the rest of them, to define your day or your future. So he told me to come back up here and just keep standing until, something changed. He said the people in this place, which he didn't know, were good people. And sometimes, I got my first lesson in diversity when I was a little boy. He says sometimes good people can't do good things because of the pressures that they have on them. And he reminded me that they have families and they have people that they need to serve and also take care of. And if they were to let me in, it's a possibility that their business could be destroyed, blown up, or things could happen. So I tried to understand that, didn't feel any better. But one day I came up here and somebody came out there, and again, she told me, she said, you want ice cream? I said, yeah. She said, we can't come in, but I'll get you one. And she came in here and got me a chocolate ice cream cone and brought it out to me. Now, that was a big day for me. I still couldn't come in. But I don't remember when Carlton and I hooked up in this deal, but there was finally a day that we could come in and stand right there where Carlton stood. And Carlton was with me during that period. There was a comic book rack right there when the Carlton that spun around. And not only did they have comic books, they had those other kind of books. We weren't supposed to look at. You remember that? Oh, yeah. And right there, we could stand right there, and they would serve us ice cream cones. And then I remember the day after the sit-ins. The first day, I sat right here at this counter and got me a milkshake. And now I'm getting older because this was close to high school, junior high, when that occurred. Early 60s. Yeah. And then, because I went to high school in '67, so then I remember the day that I sat at a table. Because I'll never forget that. I was a student at TSU, and it was open for me to be able to do that before then. But I really didn't have a good feeling about Elliston Place Soda Shop. But I heard the students talking about how great breakfast was and how much fun they had up here at TSU. And I came in the store and I sat at a booth. And the booths weren't as nice as they were kind of cracked. They were red, I think. And they still had the cracks to wear in them. And I sat at a booth and I had breakfast, and that was it good? That was my first breakfast, and here at Elliston Place. And I have been coming ever since. I brought Taylor. Taylor, we come last week, and this was her first visit to Elliston Place, not knowing that I would be here today talking to you all. But I told her my story, because I wanted her to know my story, and I told you my story. And my story really is not about not being able to come in. This community, my life in this community was about Nashville, and Nashville changing, Nashville evolving, Nashville allowing me to change with it.